Manga and manhwa, two very different styles of storytelling that have become very popular in this day and age. And even though they may be very different from each other, they do have a lot of similarities. So I thought it'd be good to compare the two and see which one is better. I released a poll a few weeks ago asking you guys which medium you think is better, and most of you guys said manga, with some of you saying both are equally good. First of all, thank you to everyone who filled out this poll. You guys are amazing. I've read a lot of manga and manhwa throughout the last few years, and by the end of this video, you will find out which medium I prefer more. So without further ado, let's jump right in. To start off, manga is comics from Japan that have been around for decades. All manga are black and white, and unlike American comics, you read them from right to left instead of left to right. The art style varies from work to work, and there are various categories of manga, such as shonen and shoujo for teens and seinen for adults. If a manga becomes really popular, it'll get adapted into anime. Shonen Jump from Shueisha is one of the main publishers of manga, and if you're someone who doesn't know anything about manga, chances are you know a series from Shonen Jump. Shonen Jump series include One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball Z, and many more. Outside of that, there are many more manga such as Berserk, Vagabond, Monster, and Goodnight Punpun that are better suited for older audiences. Manhwa, on the other hand, are comics that originate from South Korea, and these have also been around for decades, but have become more popular in the States as of the past few years. Unlike manga, these are in color and you read from left to right like American comics. Again, the art style varies from work to work, and it'll be different with each series depending on the art style of the authors. One popular way people can read manhwa, at least in the US, is through the service called Webtoon. Webtoon originated from South Korea, hence why there's a lot of manhwa on there. But there are also a lot of series on there that aren't South Korean comics and are made in places like the US. Some manhwa do get adapted into shows, some like Lookism and Solo Leveling have been adapted into anime, but others such as Weak Hero, Sweet Home, and Study Group have been adapted into live action shows. Other well-known manhwa that you may have heard of include Omniscient Reader, Viral Hit, and Eliseed, but they aren't as well known as manga are. Both mediums have their fair share of ongoing series with chapters released every week, but one thing I notice, at least in manhwa, is the emphasis on character detail. I don't think I've ever seen characters drawn at this level of detail with any other medium. I love how all the characters' faces are all detailed and differentiate from each other. With manga, yes, there's great art, but I find that there's less focus on character design and more towards background detail and actions. In manga, it's not uncommon to find many panels or sequences that have a lot going on, and it has more than just scribbles plastered all around. Manga like Jujutsu Kaisen are known for their very detailed fight scenes and their very compelling battles, but it's not the best in terms of character design. Because of that, it's easier for the author to put more emphasis on the fights, as they don't have to spend a lot of time copying each character drawing and posing them for different situations. Not saying that manhwa doesn't do their fight scenes well, they absolutely have amazing fight scenes. But something I noticed is that for some of their fights, they'll zoom out and have all the characters minimized with little detail, or they'll show more explosions and things like that. This is prevalent in manhwa such as Eliseed and Solo Leveling. Nevertheless, manhwa can produce some really great fight scenes, and with the use of color, it makes it a whole lot better looking. In terms of plots, at least with the most popular manhwa, I noticed that the enemies do more harmful actions to the main characters than the enemies of manga do. The series Lookism has a lot of school bullying in it, mainly because the more good-looking students would bully the ugly students because they didn't look as good. But what made this series different from others is that the things that these bullies would do would be so brutal that it would greatly harm someone else's life. A lot of popular manhwa, such as Juvenile Offender and To Not Die, have adopted this kind of trope. There's a lot of violence, and there's more realism in the violent acts being done. A lot of the events in most non-magic, non-fantasy manhwa are more likely to happen in real life. With manga, yes, the villains do harmful things to the main characters, but they mostly do things such as fight the heroes many times or hurt their comrades or sometimes even kill their loved ones, and much more. There are very harsh villains in each medium, but I noticed that in manhwa, the villains are more like real-life villains pushed to the extreme. Not a lot of villains in manga are very realistic, and that, in my opinion, makes my fear of them not as great. If you read a lot of manhwa, especially those about bullying, you may see the world in a different way. In terms of the amount of dialogue used, both mediums use their fair share of dialogue, though in the manhwa I've read, there seems to be less emphasis on dialogue and more emphasis on art and visuals. Some manga like Vagabond and Berserk do that too, but then there's manga like Hunter x Hunter and Moriarty the Patriot that rely heavily on dialogue, which isn't a bad thing, just something I wanted to point out. In terms of plots, most of the manhwa I've read have similar plots, though it could also be that I read most of them on Webtoon, and on there they have similar stories. You get the hero who's weak, then they get powerful, then they go on to defeat various villains. That's a good chunk of all the manhwa I've read. But that could also be because I prefer manhwa like that. Killing Stalking was probably the most unique manhwa I've read. With manga, I have read a lot of fighting manga, but I've also read a lot of psychological manga and fighting manga that could be considered psychological, such as Berserk and Vagabond. In my entire lifetime of reading manga and manhwa, I will say that I've read way more unique plots in manga than manhwa, but it could also be because I've been reading manga for over 3 times as long as I've been reading manhwa. So, which medium do I prefer? In terms of historical works and better overall series, I would pick manga because you can't beat series like Berserk, Naoki Urasawa's works, Vinland Saga, Attack on Titan, and so much more. These are the series that not only got me into manga, but got me into reading as a whole. And I don't think I would be where I'm at without these series. In terms of what I prefer to read right now, I prefer manhwa. I would take a weekly webtoon manhwa over a current ongoing weekly Shonen Jump series. I find that they are more intense and they get me hooked more than a weekly Shonen Jump series. I also think the stakes for the characters in manhwa are a lot higher than those in manga. I would take Lookism over One Piece any day. But all in all, read what you want to read. Read both mediums. There are a lot of great works all around, and you will miss out on a lot if you only stick to one medium. So as long as you're reading, you're doing great. But that'll be it for this video. Thank you guys for all your support as I've been away from YouTube. And welcome to all the new subscribers that have subscribed over my time away from YouTube. You guys are awesome. If you like this video, a like would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to see more content like this, if you haven't already, consider subscribing as well. And until then, I'll see you all in the next one.